Welcome to Live, Let Thrive, a podcast about the Airbnb life, the share economy, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Myka and Steve.
Hello.
And welcome back to another exciting episode
Of Live,
Let
Thrive. How you been, Myka?
I've been good. Yourself?
Oh, exhausted as hell.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Yeah,
Still working
yeah.
the 6 to 6 job, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, we're all getting out of that rat race.
But what I'm excited about is doing this podcast today with the great
Yes, sir.
James Guzman. Give it up for James, everybody. How you doing, James?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Doing all right, man. Trying to do that, live life kind of thing going on.
Yeah, living the sharing economy, Airbnb lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
And this is episode 48 of doing that, and share economy, Airbnb. And so we're really looking forward to this interview, man. And I found you from another podcast, you know how it works. You go out there searching for a new podcast.
Yep.
And I stumbled upon
It's a movement.
It is a movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. Part of the share economy, actually. And so I found you, Matt. And for disclaimer, this might be the shortest show ever because apparently James charges $1 a minute if you're gonna talk to him on the phone.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it, James. Make yourself a business.
No, I'm just kidding. I hope this is free. But so I stumbled upon you, and I thought your story was an interesting one, and your podcast is great, and it's all about living life wherever you want to live in the world, no borders, and you can I say thriving in your business. It doesn't matter where you are. With all the technology we have nowadays, you can do it from anywhere.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's the Borderless Podcast. And the reason is not just, I'm not just talking about, national borders, something like that. What I'm talking about really is psychological borders. A lot of people, when they want to live an entrepreneurial life, maybe they want to branch out and do some different things. A lot of times it's about psychological borders, getting past some things that you thought, you could never do, or that are too hard for you to do, or something like that. And a lot of times you need some encouragement to break those down. And so that's what we try to do, is talk to people that have gotten through struggles and just created a great life for themselves, and how they've gone about doing that. And I started doing blogging and reaching out to a lot of people and stuff like that. And since then I've been doing a lot of things in the gig economy, a lot of things with real estate. It's so it's hard nowadays to kind of say that I do this. But there's a lot of people that do specialize in one specific thing, and I've mostly been with my blog and podcast and YouTube channel, which is really like one thing that I use to network with people. I've managed a lot of vacation rental property. I've lived in Acapulco and Barbados and San Miguel de Allende in Chile, and now I'm in Medellin, Colombia. And so, working with people on their situation, helping them with move to new countries, all kinds of stuff, just kind of like digital hustling and trying to make it happen. So
I have a question. You said you use digital hustling. What are some digital hustles that you've come up with?
Well, one that you guys talk about, I think that just learning about, housing, how you can, learning about vacation rentals, whether it's a place that you own, whether it's, doing like rental arbitrage type things, understanding real estate, understanding where the market is going. You can find a lot of opportunities in utilizing softwares and stuff like that, in order to do things that, that are just, they're changing, they're changing the market. And so, that's one example. Another thing is just like building an audience, whether it's more than likely it's going to be online, an email list or a, social media following or whatever it is that you have. Today just a network alone gives you so much access to things. Whether if you have an idea, you could just crowdfund something. If you have a product that you really like to use, you can use affiliate marketing. If you write a book, you can sell it. So there's all kinds of different things that are coming about because of technology that I would kind of categorize as like just digital hustling. Not necessarily a career, but something that you can do in order to create different streams of income.
And here's an example of digital hustle. Kind of an example on my end, what I'm getting out of it. When I found out, when I came across you in one of the podcasts and I started listening to yours, I reached out to you with through Facebook. I like to Facebook stalk people, and so I added you as a friend, and then I messaged you, and I told you right away, we love your show, we're big fans. It'd be great if you could be on our show, Live Let Thrive, and if we could set that up, that'd be awesome. And you came back with a real cryptic message. It was something like, "Yes, I am aware of your existence." Maybe not. Maybe not to that extreme, but I was like, "Wow, he's over there away." And I thought you were in Mexico still, but you're in Colombia now, and so in Colombia, and he's aware of Live Let Thrive. And I thought that's pretty cool, man. Anybody can put something out there, and if it's halfway decent, which I hope ours is, someone might come across it.
Yeah, I saw a post by one of you in one of the Facebook groups before. So that, and then I followed it. I said, "Oh, what's that?" I saw there was a podcast about Airbnb and stuff and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yes, that marketing strategy works.
Yeah. No, actually, Facebook groups are I think they're really, they're good to reach out to like-minded people and stuff like that. If you get into one that has a good amount of people, there's just so many Facebook groups out there. Some are like hyper centralized, sort of friends and stuff like that. But if you're trying to get your name out there, you can get some really good ones with, over 1,000, 2,000 people in it that you can still, people can see you, but you still get out to a lot of people. Because, some of them with way too many people, you'll never get down. So.
Yeah. Was the one that you saw us on was Airbnb Professional Hosts? I
think so. Yeah.
Okay, that was huge.
I'm
yeah.
So.
Yeah. That one's huge.
And full of trolls too, but it's fun. It's fun.
I'm one of them.
You're more of an agitator. Well, I guess that's what a troll is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I with that group, I noticed there's a lot of people that represent PMS systems. And so, there's a lot of people personal management systems, for those that don't know. If you have several units, it's really, finding a good PMS system is very helpful because it helps you manage your personnel and keep your books in order and all kinds of stuff. And there's all kinds to choose from, but almost all of them are extremely glitchy and have, they don't do a thing that's very important and all this type of stuff. And I noticed that there's a lot of people representing those systems on there. So if you go and, there's a lot of people are asking questions and trying to get to the bottom of this, like, which is a good one. And then they all kind of start weighing in. And then you find out, well, yeah, because they're all different people representing them. So you can't really get a good conversation going about that. But that's one thing I've been struggling with is finding a good, PMS like that.
For your PMS system, what exactly do you want it to do?
Well, I think I'm just going to go with the channel manager now. That's what I'm really just using now. So I don't know. Eventually I'll get guesty, I think. I've gone through all this. I don't know. This is not really probably not a hugely entertaining topic for but
for our audience, maybe.
Yeah.
I found I actually use guesty, but I'll tell you that what's it called is if you just want something with a good
that's what I'm planning on doing is I think I'll use guesty eventually. What's that?
Smart B&B has the best messenger system.
Okay. Yeah, the thing is I know how to build websites, and so I would like to have a widget that can go on the website that looks pretty and all that type of stuff, and most of them don't have that. And so that's one thing. I was trying Orbi Rental, which had a net, and it works great, but it was just very glitchy and giving me a lot of double bookings and taking like a day or two to get back to me, and so I had to ditch that one.
All right, so what made you want to do real estate in the first place?
Probably. Well, my dad has always encouraged me to get into entrepreneurship and real estate and stuff like that. I mean, he gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like 14. Oh,
wow.
So, yeah. So reading that and then reading a lot of other business books and stuff like that. Just I wanted to learn about it, and so that's what I did. I just think that it's a really good asset class. It's obviously stood the test of time, and so it's just something that at least want to it takes a lot of years to learn about it and how to utilize it correctly. So it's at least something you want to know about, because you're definitely going to be using it in your lifetime.
And when did you hear about Airbnb, and when did you decide to start trying it out?
I've been using Airbnb for a long time. I think the first time I heard about Airbnb was it had to be a long 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and just started using it here and there. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've been like exclusively using Airbnb to travel for probably 4 or 5 years now. Like, I never use anything else.
So you started using it as traveling first, and you decided that you could do it and make a buck?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, I've also been involved in just managing rentals for other people. I managed a hotel in Acapulco, and I was the first one to put those on Airbnb, because they weren't putting them on all the rooms on Airbnb. And so, yeah, I've just been aware of it, and it's not just Airbnb. I mean, I just think that, I actually like Airbnb a lot. I mean, I think that it's a great platform, but really what we're talking about is the vacation rental industry in general, right? And the sharing economy and all that type of stuff. The rentals that I manage now, I mean, I do whole houses, where people can go in and out, without me being there, that I can remotely manage. So that doesn't have to be Airbnb, although that's a lot of the market. That can be directly through the website. That can be through Booking or VRBO or whatever. But yeah, I do like the slick interface and a lot of the things that Airbnb are doing. So.
And what what countries or what cities are you managing out of?
You mean where the house is located?
Yeah, exactly.
San Miguel de Allende, and I'm helping with some here in Medellin right now.
Oh, nice.
San Miguel de Allende is in Mexico. It's in a state called Guanajuato.
Yeah. My wife's from Guadalajara, and so
okay, yeah, not too far away. Sure.
So we go there a lot. Well, I mean, we haven't been to Guanajuato yet, but we'd love to we'd love to go check it out. We hear it's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a great, and that's another part of this. I don't know how much you guys cover, but that's one thing I talk about a lot about in my podcast is the Airbnb thing, and renting out units and stuff like that. It really creates an opportunity for you to go to interesting places. I mean, if you have some sort of income that you can run remotely, some sort of income that you can do online. By going abroad, you can dramatically cut down your cost of living. You can, again, not be doing the commute that you're going to be doing, the normal, hustle and bustle in the United States. There's a lot of things that are a lot more expensive, medical care and all that type of stuff. Plus, you can cut down on your taxes a lot. So really, if you're able to create this type of income for yourself, and go somewhere where you're comfortable, you're having fun, you enjoy your life, and you also get to, raise your standard of living by like 4 or 5% just, overnight by moving somewhere like that. So that's one thing I talk a lot about, because you really can't do it,
Yeah, Myka's plan is to retire and move to Ghana, actually.
Whoa, okay, haven't been there.
Yeah. So definitely going to be looking at you for some tips on how to do that. So what systems do you have in place to manage your Airbnbs remotely?
Okay, well, I'll be honest with you. One big part of that is the staff, the help. If you can get your, good, your cleaner or cleaners and your maintenance guy. Those are going to be some really key parts of your team, and make sure that they're happy and they understand the systems, and you have everything in place, kind of checklists, and everybody understands their roles and stuff like that. They can, if you can use a PMS system to help cut down depending on how many units you have, or you can just, if you're using primarily Airbnb, just assign other people's co-hosts and stuff like that, and they can help you with reviews and managing messages, answering messages, etc. So yeah, I would say that probably the number one team member that I have and that everybody's going to have is going to be a mate or a cleaner that is going to be responsive and understand what her duties or his duties or whatever duties are.
So you're big, like I'm sure a ton of y'all's fans are expats or aspiring expats. They want to get out of the country for like those reasons you explained. And I've had even today I was sitting there with at my job, and my job has a lot of older people there, high seniority people, and they started talking about retirement and how expensive medical is, and they're anticipating spending like $1,000 to $2,000 a month in medical expenses here in the States if they try to retire a little bit early, try to bridge that gap to Medicare. And I was just thinking, well, you got options. I mean, it seems like you don't got options. It seems helpless. But for example, what if you move to Mexico, where the drugs are cheap, the good drugs, and medical care is a lot cheaper, a lot more affordable, and you could like you said, your cost of living is going to be lower, and you can live better on what you're making, your retirement fund. And that's an option, and you can live on a beach, man. I mean, people aren't thinking like that, I guess.
Well, I tell you, there are a lot of people that are, because there's a lot of places, especially in Mexico now. You mentioned Guadalajara, San Miguel de Allende, Mazatlan, Puerto Vallarta, all these places. There's a lot of retirees going down there, and they're basically like economically forced to, because Social Security was never supposed to be something that people are living on by itself, and that's what people are trying to do. And the medical costs are so high and stuff like that, and so someone who would probably be living in a trailer park, in the States, they're able to live on the high horse out in certain cities, and go out 3 times a week and all that type of stuff. And as far as medical stuff, a lot of people think that you're going to get bad care or something like that, but that's definitely not the case. You can get like in some really good hospitals and all that type of stuff and get taken care of for much less expensive. So yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people, although they talk about, I really love, this or that, or, they come up with all kinds of stuff. Really, if you think about it, it's because that's what they have, like economically, that makes sense. So that's why they've chosen to do that, especially with a lot of the retired, the baby boomers and all this. I mean, this is a big thing. A lot of people do not have the money that they thought they would. They don't understand how they're going to retire, and they're planning on just working until they die. But that's not going to happen. It's not that's not an option, right?
Right. Are you familiar with Lake Chapala in outside of Guadalajara?
Yeah.
Ajijic. Well, me and my wife did our. See, I work for an airline, so we've already traveled all over. Me and my wife, not to brag or nothing, but we've been around the world. Yeah. And and so we went to we said, well, we're gonna get married in Guadalajara. Let's just go somewhere close, and we went to Lake Chapala, Ajijic, and we stayed at there was a Canadian family, right? Or I would say family, but a husband and wife, and so we stayed there. They had their main house, and they had this huge structure, surrounded by these, big walls. But it's inside the city, just it's intermingling with the locals, And so we stayed there, and they had 3 bungalows built out back, a nice plush garden, big nice pool, And we had so much fun. And, we went to the local spots. He even took us around, took us under his wing and stuff and showed us some good restaurants and we had, hung out with them a little bit. But, of course, they gave us our privacy. It was our honeymoon, trying to make a baby.
No.
And so, anyways, I was,
tough to do.
Yeah, I was on a mission. But anyways, we were just talking to him about. I mean, this seems great. I mean, I could picture myself doing something like this. Of course, it helps a little bit less scary because I go to Guadalajara a lot, and I'm Mexican, and my wife, she's from there, and then But like I'm like, well, how did it work? You just up and I'm going on a little tangent here, but anyways, he said that one day, they would watch these shows, him and his wife, sometimes these travel shows, people on beaches in Mexico. One of them came out in Mexico, and it just happened to be during the middle of winter, and there was like snow so high it was covering their windows.
Yeah.
Up in Canada, and he told his wife, you know what? Let's get out of here. What are we doing? We're already retired. Let's move to Mexico. And so that's what he did. They moved down to Mexico from Canada. They've loved being there ever since. And he support. What the cool part of this story is he really integrated into the community. And he became friends with the neighbors, and he lets their kids swim in the swimming pool, and they sponsored a local soccer team. And they just really integrated. The people around him love him. They take care of him. They watch his place. And what he said it's not really typical. He goes, he has friends there, other expats, that they hardly ever leave their house. They don't talk to the locals at all. They'll just go from one local's house to another local's house, one expat's house to another one's house, and not really try to integrate, and they struggle, and some of them end up going back. It's a long tangent, but I was like, one of the cool things that I heard on one of your casts is that you help when you offer a service, for a fee, which is a reasonable fee, like $1,500. People come over there to you, you give them a tour of the place, of the city, and
Yep.
all the ins and outs and stuff, and yeah, man, I just think that's really cool what you're doing. And could you explain how you do that, and explain the best way to enjoy your expatness?
Yeah, right. So so that that's another, we were talking about a digital hustle type thing. For a while now, one big part of the podcast, it would just come up just because I happened to be there in San Miguel de Allende, and it would come up in conversation. And so a lot of people would be very interested. They'd write me emails, and a lot of the videos that I would do about San Miguel would get a lot of hits. So, people are, what is that? Where is it? And they want to know more about it. And so it just naturally, you try to think about how I can do businesses around this type of thing, or how I can make a little bit of money. So, for instance, that what you mentioned earlier with the $1 a minute, this is like clarity calls. A lot of people want to talk to me about San Miguel and how to move there, and that's fine. And I've done in the beginning, I was doing a lot of that, and a lot of people are just fishing. A lot of people, waste your time. A lot of people you'll spend a lot of time with, and then they'll disappear. And so I just figured, $1 a minute, and they can get on the clarity thing, and I'd be happy to give, tell them all that. And the other thing is the tour. And so I set up a tour because I know an English-speaking lawyer there, an accountant, a English-speaking dentist, and doctor. I know the manager of managers of different restaurants and places like that. I know an accountant. I can help them get a bank account set up. I can take them to the hot springs, and really they'll get, like, I can, within a few days, I can do, they can knock down a lot of stuff that would have taken them years. I honestly believe it. And so, yeah, $1,500 is pretty cheap, actually. if you want to go there and retire and buy a house, you can have all kinds of problems and waste time and get ripped off and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I just put that together. It's been pretty popular, and for years now, it has been one of my top things. So about different products that people are asking for, and so yeah, that was one of those things.
So you said you charge people $1 a minute. I gotta say, I absolutely love that idea. Any time that's taken away from your family and whatnot, yeah, you got to charge people because they'll take advantage. So my question would be, how do you automate that to make so people do you just hang up the phone like, hey, this call was 11 minutes. Hey, you owe me $11, or is there an automated system in place?
So there definitely is an automated system, and I use one called Clarity. And if you go to clarity.fm, what that is it's a website that has all kinds of experts in different areas. And so if you ever get stuck in some area, whether it's marketing or raising money or whatever, you can go and search and see if there's a person there that knows about that, and you can book time with them. Actually, $1 a minute is the cheapest you can charge on there. And so that there are a lot of people that charge like $20 a minute.
Wow.
Yeah, and like really, whatever. Anyways, so so what it does is they book a certain amount, and they have to pay for a certain amount. So say they'll pay for a 20-minute call, they have to pay 20 minutes. Now, if it goes over, I'd happily go over. That's fine, but it still continues to charge. And if I got to go, you got to go, and it hangs up and it charges for the exact amount. Now they do take an amount. It's not very much. It's like 5%, like less. It's less than 10%, and then it just gets sent to your PayPal. If you want to do it yourself, you can also go through things like Schedule Once. There's also WordPress plugins where people can go and pay money and do blocks of time directly from your website, and you're not going to have anybody taking any percentage out. But I like Clarity because it's easy, it's quick, people can search you, and you don't have to worry about setting up some whole calendar. If you're doing a lot of consults or some expert like that, then it would probably make sense to have your own system. But you could just use Clarity's for a small percentage. So that's what I do.
Thank you. I'm setting up a profile now.
There you go.
He doesn't waste time, man. Myka don't waste time.
It doesn't take long.
Yeah, so because I just finished binge watching this show called Queen of the South. You guys might have heard of it. It's starting to become my favorite show. But she was talking to this guy. In order to talk to this dude, you had to pay $250,000 to talk to him. And I was like, dang, I need to start my business like that. So when you said that you charge $1 a minute, I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to learn about that. So thank you for that. I've been looking to do it.
And
and a lot of people in the space, that I know and that I've worked in, this, what they would call like the offshore type of stuff. They charge a lot of money for consultations. If you want to talk to them for half an hour, they'll charge $1,000 or $500 or something. That's very normal. So.
Now, another cool thing on that note, I guess I was listening to one of your, I think it was a year-end podcast, and you were talking about favorite guests, and one of your guests suggested, he's like, why would you not want to do like a seminar, offer a seminar for $2,000 a head, and see who you say what it's about and see who shows up. Even if 2 people or 3 people show up, they're $2,000 seems like a lot of money, but they're gonna get this wealth of information from you, better than these little nickel and dime free seminar BS things. They'll go to someone who why. What I got out of it is, don't be afraid to charge for something that is really good.
Yeah, and actually there's speaking of that tour that I do, there's a guy that I know who he has made tens of millions of dollars just simply in online marketing. And, I mentioned to him years ago about my tour, and, I was asking what would he recommend for my business and all this type of stuff, and he was looking at the blog and he talked about the tour. And so I was charging $1,000 at the time. I'm charging $1,500 now, but what he said is that no. You got to do like a Cadillac service, do like pick them up in a nice car, do a little bit more luxury stuff, make all this type of show up in a suit or whatever, and charge like $8,000 or whatever. You know what I mean? But like, go for people with money and do that because if you can make a bigger margin, that's that's what you got to do. And because if you're spending your time, say you're spending 3 days doing that, it's not really scalable as far as like in comparison to info products and stuff like that. And so that's what he was saying, is just don't be afraid to really make it like a luxury product and charge more. So because there are people out there with the money that would be more than happy to just do it if they think that you're going to do a good job at it.
See, this is why I love synergy right here, man. Everything you do comes back to you. So, for example, you're talking about this, and before I got on this call, I was actually working on my timeshare course, and I was pricing it, setting it up for this price, that price. And, like, yeah, man, and I was thinking, okay, if I charge people $1,000 for this, and then, of course, I can get with people, and, like, all our listeners, of course, I'll charge them 50%. It'll just be Live, Let, Thrivers, you're 50% off. But if I do personal, I was like, man, I might be able to charge people $2,000 if I give them my personal time, Right. It's also, you have confidence in your product as well. So I actually like to talk more about you, more to you about that, man. It sounds like you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and it is kind of tough, especially with info products pricing, right? Because it's just kind of this ether. You're trying to figure out, it's a new thing. Where to price it, it's tough to do. So it's definitely an art, and there's a lot to know about it.
Now, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say was because, okay, we live in the share economy or the internet boom, right? So it's easy to Google something, but there's certain things out there you can't Google, and if you have the information that they can't Google, of course you sell it. So how do you go about licensing your information so nobody else can go back and say, oh, this guy taught me this, here, boom, and then it starts spreading that?
Yeah, so the way that I look at it is that in the information economy, it's not about you having specific information that other people don't. Because there's some that do have information that others don't. But for the most part, you're packaging information, you're delivering information in a unique way, with a unique message, and you're editing it in a certain way that's palatable for certain people. So you're delivering it in a way, so it's like it's a lot like writing books has always been, or even art or something like that, is that it's mostly in the editing. And if people don't know about creative endeavors, if they've never done that before, they might not know that a lot of stuff with creative endeavors and art and all this type of thing, writing, etc., it has to do with editing just as much as it has to do with making the thing. So, putting all this information, but it's also editing it down, putting it into something that looks good, that can be delivered, that's palatable for people, that people can understand, teaching it correctly, all this type of stuff. I think that's really the important thing, because, if people like your delivery, if they like you, if you're like the fountainhead of this information that they want to, it doesn't matter. People can repackage it, people can steal it, people can do whatever they want to. Yeah, maybe they'll make some money off it, maybe whatever, but people are always going to go back to you if you're, doing it correctly. So, yeah, I think that's the right way to go about it these days, because, a lot of people it's a very controversial thing with people on the internet, what's ethically okay and what's not. But, the point is, it's very hard a lot of times to protect your intellectual property. And so, I think you're better off just trying to have people attracted to because of who you are. So,
yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
I think the Americans, especially like going to Mexico, they're and then the ones that were hitting you up to try to go, maybe make a life there. They're already conditioned in a way when they go and when they visited and traveled to Mexico and go on vacations and stuff. They love the all-inclusive thing, and I think that's what you're giving them, is the all-inclusive package. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know about that. The places that most of the people that have come down that are followers of my blog, they're not really the all-inclusive type.
Oh.
I give more of kind of a. I don't want to say local experience, but definitely more involved in the community. no, I mean, I try to go through all aspects of what it would be like to move there and you know, how to become, you know, part of that, all the different, I concentrate most on the legal aspects. You know, a lot of people, especially if they have some money, they're trying to move money, they're trying to get their, you know, they don't, they're afraid that they're going to have some shitty doctor or whatever. So I try to take away those type of fears, because, you know, and so yeah, that's
so you introduce them to locals while you're there, right? Other expats?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. That's part of the thing too, is, you know, just going to you know, a popular, because a lot of these types of places, you know, they have their hangouts, and so, you know, you take them down to the local kind of hangout, and hey, you know, I know lots of people. I'm a you know, pretty social person, so I can sit in most of the, you know, restaurant or bar or whatever, and I'll just see all kinds of people I know. Hey, this guy is thinking of coming down here, and everybody's really nice. It was like, oh wow, that's really cool. You know, we did it, and this and that, and you know, if they're locals from there, they'll say, oh, that's, you know, that's great, and you know, try to give them advice or, you know, whatever. So people are very welcoming, and so yeah, I think that's a big part of it too, just kind of sitting there and meeting people, and yeah, actually, you know, the funny thing about that, since we're talking a lot about this that tour packages that, and we're talking about marketing and things like that. I swear to God, you know, I've done that package. I don't know exactly how many times, but over 50 times for sure. And I would say that almost everybody that buys that package, it's not really about all those little individual things. It sounds cool, but what it's really about is they want to go down there, they want to meet me, they want to hang out with me, they want to hang out and look at the city, and they want to meet other people down there, and they just want to kind of like have a couple of beers and hang out and walk around and see what it's like living there. That's really what it's about. They don't really care about meeting a lawyer. They don't really care about meeting an accountant. It's funny, but you know, they pay the money just to kind of hang out, you know, so.
That's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, it's just it's good to think about that kind of stuff when you're positioning and when you're marketing, when you're writing copy and stuff like that. To think about, you know, what you're really selling is this lifestyle. You know, people are, you know, what are they thinking about? They're not thinking about, oh, what is the, you know, what are my capital gains like going to be? Maybe they're thinking about that somewhat, but what the driving factor behind all that is, you know, wow, it would be really cool if I'm just hanging out in this beautiful city with you know, with some wine, overlooking the sunset, you know, and this great weather. You know, they're thinking about the lifestyle. So,
and before we beat the topic to death, one thing that did cross my mind, and about you know, charging the $1,500, and they want to go over there and see everything, and then, you know, hang out with you and stuff. And what crossed my mind is, like, you didn't, if someone was offering this same thing as like for free, you know, hey, come over here and see this whatever city it is for free in Mexico, and we'll introduce you to everybody, this and that, the lawyer, the doctor, all this stuff. Automatically our spidey senses are going to go up, and we're going to like, sounds like some timeshare bullshit, and
yep.
And so we're gonna,
right, yeah.
But by charging the people for it, you like that automatically like turns a switch in their head. Oh, I'm paying for a service, and he's
yep.
giving me good information. You know, it has the opposite effect.
Yeah, and they value it. That's absolutely true. You know, if you value yourself, people will value you. So you got to keep that in mind.
I love that. I'm gonna put that in the beginning of the podcast. Real quick, you mentioned earlier before all this, the dirty word, the bad word here in the United States, offshore accounts. We've been, right. I mean, conditioned since like all these movies that we've watched, all these government, you know, politicians railing against these offshore, you know, evil corporations or the drug lords, and are putting their money in offshore accounts. And even, you know, I like Obama back in when he was pres, but he even made it a big point in his presidency to go after these offshore accounts, you know. And so yep. It's like such a bad word here, but you said it so casually, and you mentioned and you talk about it on your podcast. So if you could give us a brief history or a brief, you know, I don't know, it's hard to do something brief over something like that, but a synopsis or what what are offshore accounts, and how do people use them, like legally, regularly, and how and beneficially?
Sure. Yeah. So It's pretty. Yeah, so the offshore word is, I guess, it's a hot, but I just use it because whatever, I don't care. But yeah, it is. I'm sure a lot of people kind of they think that it means you're like bearing money or something, but really, all offshore means is away from your native country. That's all it means. So if you have an account in Spain, then that's offshore. Or if you have an account in Hong Kong, that's offshore. If you have anywhere, if you're from the United States, if you have an account anywhere in the United States, then you have an offshore account. All right, and so basically, I talk about it because this is another thing that I think goes along with a lot of the the market changes that we're seeing. When we're talking about vacation rentals and sharing economy and digital hustler and all this type of stuff, another aspect of that is that, as far as the offshore stuff, that has been a game that very wealthy people have played for a long time. A lot of the different tax incentives, a lot of ways that everybody knows that corporations have different rules that they play by, and a lot of wealthy people do, et cetera, and they have for a long time, and that's basically how the tax code is written. The way that people are able to travel much easier than they have been in the past, it actually allows the common person to be able to take advantage of some of this stuff in a way that hasn't been possible in the past. So, you can take you can take advantage of a quote unquote offshore, loophole or whatever you want to call it. If that's the way that the laws are written. So there's nothing wrong with using the laws the way that they're written. Use it yourself. Everybody else is doing it. Instead of you sit there and complain about it, maybe there's a way you can take advantage of it for yourself. And so there's definitely certain things with real estate, again, capital gains, passive income. It gets very complicated, but there's a lot of advantages with holding real estate overseas. There's a lot of advantages of making, offshoring yourself. You can, if you are there's a big one that a lot of people like a lot, which is, the foreign earned income exclusion. And if you're a resident outside of the United States, you don't have to pay income tax up to $100,000. Right? Wow. And yeah, so that's a big one, right?
That's huge.
Exactly. That's right. So that, as an example, but there's all kinds of stuff. And so, it's just internationalizing yourself in a way that, again, is completely legal. It's becoming easier than ever. And things are changing because of it. I think that a lot of the shifts that we're seeing on a geopolitical scale have a lot to do with the ease that people can move money around, the ease that people can move themselves around and go to places where they like better or they're treated better and things like that. And so, it just makes sense, just like with all the other industries, that you would, at least educate yourself on it and take a look at what's going on there.
You're in Colombia, right?
I am currently in Colombia, yes.
Yeah. Talking about offshore accounts and saying you live in Colombia, that throws a red flag to our government up here.
Yeah. Colombia is not a great place for an offshore account. And let me just mention another thing, as far as offshore stuff. People think, everybody thinks bearing money, secret accounts, and all bearer shares or whatever. That doesn't exist anymore. There's no bank secrecy in the entire world. The United States financial system knows about everything. All right. And so, the idea that you're going to go and fly in with a suitcase and put it into a bank in the Cayman Islands and nobody's ever going to know it, that doesn't exist. That's not what happens. You can't. So it's all, it's all known, it's all tracked, and it's just you plan by the rules that are given to you. And so there's, it's really not the shady type thing people make it out to be.
Now, what of course automatically came to my mind was cryptocurrency, and that's, I guess, in a way, there is a future for it, and you wouldn't really need to have, offshore accounts or different banks in different countries, this and that, if everybody was on, some kind of cryptocurrency. be it Bitcoin or Litecoin or whatever, but where you could like you could go across borders and with your digital wallet, right, and just and live anywhere. I mean, that would be even more beneficial to the people that want to do the nomad life, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's definitely going to be the future, but I think that it's uncertain what exactly that future is going to look like. I think a lot of people think that cryptocurrency is going to cause this really quick decentralization, and governments aren't going to be able to handle it, and it's going to be all this type of future. But I don't think so. I think that more than likely it's going to be regulated and utilized by governments, and incorporated into a lot of the technology and the stuff that we use now. So that can be bad for some people. Look at it, and that every single thing that you ever spend your money on is going to be tracked and traced, and a lot of people don't like that. But it could be make a lot more. It could make life a lot more convenient. So I guess we'll see how it goes. But I do think that the cryptocurrencies will be a part of our future, and I think that it's a little bit early now to be. That a lot of people are really. It's kind of it just seems from the psychology of the market, and in my opinion, that it seems to be in a bit of a mania. And that did die down with that big pullback, but there's a lot of people involved that don't know about it and stuff, and so I think that it will come about, but maybe it's a bit premature for prime time. You know what I mean?
My new guest is actually a cryptocurrency guy, and my question on cryptocurrency is, how much do we truly understand it to full-fledged invest in it? Like, we know it goes up and it goes down, but do we truly understand cryptocurrency? That is. I mean, I would say that that's a personal investment question. And this is one of my big kind of sticking points with cryptos in general. A lot of people think that I'm like bashing cryptos. I mean, I don't bash cryptos. But my point of what, I wrote a piece called "Is Bitcoin Just a Distraction?" And my point wasn't to bash cryptos or anything, but my point is that, whatever it is that you do to make money, or that you're investing in, or whatever it is, you got to concentrate on it. You got to take responsibility for that, and you got to know what you're doing. And that takes time. That takes, messing up. You got to do several deals. You got to be involved in it. You got to read about it. You got to go to conferences about it. You got to know people in the industry. You got to know what's up. Whatever it is. If that could be real estate, or that could be online marketing, or that could be whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, jumping into crypto, which a lot of people are doing when they don't know what the hell they're doing, is not a good idea. If you're going to do crypto, you got to really get into it. And it's a complicated field. So you get into it and, get to know people and learn all that you can about it. And then start to put some money in it. You probably, you lose some money, and then you got to do it again. You got to stay at it. But if that's what you want to do, and if that's what you want to know about, then, I really don't think this approach of like, a lot of people take this approach. Obviously, that's how markets work, is that, that as soon as something gets bubbly, as soon as people start talking about it, that's when they jump in the market. Well, that's exactly the opposite thing you want to do. Exactly.
So, exactly. But the point is, don't let. I mean, if you want to do that, and if you really like it, then learn all about it, get into it. But if not, don't let these ups and downs distract you from what it is that you want to learn about or what you want to do.
Cool. Now, do you personally own any real estate?
No, right now I don't.
And why is that?
Well, I mean, I like the rental arbitrage model, and a lot of people probably listen to this are used to the market in the United States with buying rental properties and things like that, and the credit that you get. Most of the rest of the world, all the rest of the world, doesn't work like that. As far as like really low interest rates, down payments, and the 30-year fixed with a 20. Okay, almost, outside of the United States, you got to put a significant amount down, and you're going to be paying higher amounts of interest, and they're going to be shorter loan periods. I don't know if people know this, but like the 30-year fixed is pretty much subsidized. Well, it is subsidized by the federal government. So you don't get access to those type of loans. Now, that can be good for you. If you're in the States, you want to stay there, you want to get rental property there, that's you're getting somebody to subsidize your loan. So, go for it. But, I spend my time outside. So, buying property is, especially just rental property, investment property is not as, the return is not as easy to get when you're not having these artificially low interest rates and subsidized mortgages. And so that's probably, one of the reasons too. But I think that the rental arbitrage model works well. And so I just do that, long-term rental things. And so, but I would, if somebody wants to buy something and it makes sense, then there's nothing wrong with that.
So you don't buy, you like the arbitrage thing. You make pretty good money off that, I assume. But, and that, I guess I see that, okay, you're making income. Now, so you don't invest in real estate. What kind of things do you invest in?
Oh, I like stuff that, this is, I like stuff that you have control of. So, businesses that, I'm involved in, or I know people that are involved in. I do think that having some amount in, precious metals, hard assets and stuff like that is good to have just as a backup no matter what. Maybe that's like a, doomsday or whatever. But, I do. And I think that, real estate is a good type of hard asset that you can control. So just, stuff like that.
Okay. And like for example, I guess it's on these HGTV shows or whatever. People are international property hunters, whatever. And I've seen them, and sometimes I see them like, okay, they're gonna buy something, and then other times they just want to rent something for this $1,200 a month, which gets them this badass freaking condo overlooking the beach with all the bells and whistles for like $1,200 a month. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. And so like, are there like longer leases like in Mexico or other spots in the world where they can sign with somebody that owns this thing for just like the next 20 years of their life or something like that?
That's all. It's all in the negotiation, and that's another thing. People, you got to open your mind about how stuff works, because everything's negotiable. You know what I mean? If you talk to somebody, they're in a certain situation, maybe they want to sell. You say, "Wow, what if I was just to lease and I was to pay the same amount that you would be getting?" Or what? Maybe you can do a seller finance deal, or build some stuff. Who knows? You know what I mean? And so yeah, maybe I've never done it 20 years. That would be pretty aggressive. But that maybe you can pull it off. And that'd be cool. But yeah, give it a shot. It's, that's it. Trying to just make stuff work like that. I think that it's all the negotiation and the deal that you find. So
like a typical expat comes to whatever they do your class, the tour, and so are they looking at just their life with part of their life savings buy a piece of property and live in it, or are there's some that actually just go to rent?
So yeah, I would say that most of the people that do that tour are people at the age of retirement, and they go and they sell a property in the States, and they want to buy a property outside of the States. A lot of people do that, or a lot of people are planning on renting, just going down there and renting. So yeah.
And how friendly are local governments to the expats?
They're real. They like. Especially if they come down there with money. They like people to come down with money.
So, do you plan on having a family, and how will that affect your nomad life?
That's a good question. I ask that same question to people. I don't know. I have no plan. I don't. And maybe that would happen somewhere in the future. I'm only 34, So I got time for that. And I don't know. I'm not so sure I want to do that. But if I do, then I will make plans accordingly. But to be honest with you, I take a lot of I have a lot of people on my podcast because I think it's an interesting topic about trying to travel and live different places with a family, and there are plenty of people that do it. Two of my latest guests have been people with 2 kids that travel all over, and they're very active in what's called world schooling, which is it's kind of like homeschooling as they're traveling. And so there's all kinds of different things that you can do, and it's cool, and I think that's interesting, and that's so yeah, I mean I personally am enjoying myself, doing it single right now, but it's not something that's out of the picture for someone that does have a family. So
nice. By the way, are you a dual citizenship anywhere?
Nope, I'm a U.S. citizen.
Okay, cool. You would never plan on doing something like that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just hasn't. It hadn't happened yet, so I just I just have a U.S. passport, and it's pretty good for travel. And I travel mostly as a tourist everywhere I go.
And and another one of your podcasts, you mentioned you went to some conference in the States, but did you go like, was it in San Diego where you crossed some bridge? You didn't have to deal with customs or anything?
Wow, you got to deal with customs. But yeah, so in San Diego they have this new bridge between Tijuana and San Diego, and so what's good and nice about that is that it's when you fly in, it's just a little more hectic, and there's some more type of stuff you have to deal with when you fly into the U.S. The TSA and all that type of stuff. So instead, you fly into Tijuana and you walk. I mean, you do have to deal with customs, right? But yet you walk directly. You just walk, because when you walk across the border, it's a lot easier. I don't know if people have experience with this, but if they did, I mean, it's just. And so now they have a border, a bridge where you land in Tijuana and you can basically just you walk right in. And so that's pretty nice. And you also get a lot cheaper flights. So, if you're flying from somewhere in Latin America, you can fly to Tijuana and just walk across that bridge and then take an Uber to wherever you're going in San Diego. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. So all right. What exciting things do you see for the future of the share economy? I mean, we got so much cool stuff. Like, we're doing these podcasts. We're reaching out to each other through the interwebs, and we've got Uber to take us places. We'll have self-driving cars, stuff like that, self-flying airplanes. Who knows? But I mean, what big things do you see coming, and are you excited about it? And are we finally going to be able to get these governments out of the way and let us just deal person to person?
Well, I think that as far as the people in this podcast are concerned, I think that probably a lot of the smart home technology is going to be pretty cool for us. Being able to integrate that into rentals, integrate that into our own houses where we can adjust the thermostat and the locks and stuff are really coming along. Different things with lighting, heating up, doing hot tubs or whatever. All kinds. Who knows what's going to be coming? But there's a lot of things with the smart home stuff I think is really interesting, and a lot of the aspects of it I'm a little bit skeptical on. A lot of people talk about artificial intelligence and things like that. I don't know or the self-driving car also. I don't know how close we really are to having that. I think that, I mean, it'll come eventually, but I think that it's still a ways off, But I do think that a lot of the smart home stuff is here and it's coming along. The home sharing stuff, in 10 years, what is it going to be like, with home sharing? I think that a lot more people, it'll be very much accepted just to, if you're going on vacation, you rent your place out, and home swapping or whatever. I think that's, there's a lot of things to think about. Another thing, this isn't something in the future, but another thing that I do is house sitting. And so I know people with nice houses, and they trust me, and so they'll pay me to take care of their house. And
Nice.
so, yeah, and so I just came off of one. It was 4 months. This big mansion. They're paying me to take care of their dog in this big, huge house. And while they're doing that, I'm renting out my place on Airbnb. You know what I mean? So you
Double
get paid
dipping.
double.
Yeah.
Right, and there's a lot of cool things coming down. You just got to be kind of creative about it. But yeah, I mean, I think that crypto stuff is cool. I think that the availability of travel and geo arbitrage, in that like people kind of being more comfortable maybe with going to places that are less expensive. And this, we're talking a lot about international stuff, but it doesn't have to, it's not necessarily international either. I mean, even within the United States, there's big trends going on where, like you were talking about with the snow, a lot of people up north, they're going down to the south. If they have, a lot of the retirees have income that's coming in kind of, as you could call, location independent, as it's from the government, but they get their Social Security and whatever types of pensions. And so, they say, oh, screw this snow, or why am I in this big city, or whatever. Why don't they? So they're moving down. They're moving down to the warmer climates, and also low tax climates, to the states with less tax, and that's what's happening. So I think those are trends as far as we're seeing. Just people, people being able to move people places where they're more comfortable and where their dollar stretches farther. Yeah, I mean, and there's all kinds of things that obviously I just can't. I don't even know, so
Yeah.
who knows? But I think it'll be exciting.
Sweet. Real quick, you got any tips or suggestions, some actionables to get people out there to do? Well, maybe not just leave their country, but just to get out there and follow their kind of dream and stuff. I mean, what would you suggest? How would you suggest they start? I mean,
Yeah, well, they need to start by listening to the Borderless Podcast and your podcast.
of course.
So yeah, so no, you gotta, and it sounds. I hate to do all the cliche stuff, but like you gotta. I really think that you gotta sit there and do some introspection in the beginning. Think about what it is that you want. What do you want to do? Where do you want to live? What do you want to be working on? Seriously, just sit in a room by yourself and think about it. What is it that you want? And the funny thing is that really, once you figure out what you want, you know what you need to do to get there. It really starts with yourself and like understanding what it is that you want, because a lot of people just kind of live this life that's kind of been given to them, and they told you got to do this and that and that and that. But really, why don't you just step back and think about what it is that you want? Because you can actually, you can create the type of life that you want. I mean, it might not be perfect, but better than what you think that you have to do. So first, you got to think about what it is that you want, where what type of lifestyle you want to live, where what that would look like, what type of family you want, etc. And how much time you want to spend with the people around you and all that, and then try to build it around there. And I really think that once you have that, a lot of us know we know deep down what we need to do. And what I was talking to you guys before about is there's a guy. He's not a motivational speaker, but he's this guy who's been very successful. His name is Dan Penny. A lot of people know him. He's pretty popular, but he's got a catchphrase, and he tells people just fucking do it, right? And so the point of that is that people ask him all kinds of questions, like really complicated. How do I do? I don't exactly know how to get this and how to do that. I had to get started on this and that. And next week, tells me, just fucking do it. What are you talking about? And so, because the point is like, just you got to get started and do it. Most of the time, but you got to put in the work. You got to learn about it. You got to go reach out to people. You got to get uncomfortable, and you got to put in more hours than you want to, or maybe whatever. And but you got to do it. And so if you figure out what you want, then you just fucking do it, you know. And so yeah, I think that that's and that's kind of, you know, theoretical or whatever, but I really do think that that's important. And you know, understand that a lot of times, I mean, it matters what, if it's just buying a rental house, well then it's probably going to be more work than you thought it would be, but you know, not as much as like starting a business, so or something like that. But understand that probably what you're going to do, it's going to be a lot easier than you thought it would be, and it's going to be a lot harder than you thought it would be. As weird as that sounds, it really is like that. So you know, be prepared to you know, put in some work and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, even though it's going to be some hard things, it's probably going to be easier than you think it would be.
Great advice, man. You stuck the landing that time. So
Yeah, definitely inspired me. Definitely, man.
we appreciate you being on. Where can people find you, man?
Yeah, go to borderlessblog.com. That's where most of my stuff is. The podcast, borderlesspodcast.com on iTunes. If you're that type, I got some website, YouTube stuff. But you know, go to borderlessblog.com. Get on the mailing list. Please get on the mailing list, because that's, you know, a lot of the social media networks, they change and all types of stuff. But if you get on people's mailing list, then you'll always be, you know, getting updates. So please do that.
Awesome, man. We appreciate you being on, and we wish you luck in all your endeavors. And
thank you very much.
Yeah. Anything to add, Myka?
Man, no, man. We will definitely be checking out the Borderless podcast and our listeners. Thanks for being on. That's about it, man.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
All right.
See you later, man. Thanks.
All right, guys. It was good talking.
Oh, so that was our awesome interview with the great James Guzman from Borderless blog, Borderless podcast. And so, yeah, we got a lot from it. And even, sorry, the video was a little choppy. But we got a lot. We hope you got a lot from it, man. There's no. What he means by borderless, there's no borders. I mean, their imaginary lines that you go across. You know, I know there's all customs and all that stuff, but you can do you anywhere you want to do you.
Yeah, real talk, man. And that's why, like, man, the world is so small with the internet, man. It's so easy to get off the corporate plantation now. It's just, you have to do it. Like he said, just effing do it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you just got to do it, man. I really feel, I like the way he did that, and he's living the dream, you know?
Yeah, living the dream, man. And that's what we're doing. We're living, letting, and thriving, and we're trying to help you all do the same. And we appreciate your support, your listenership, and spreading the word, because we're growing like wildfire. And yeah, the sky is the limit. No, past the sky, you know, Elon Musk, keep going. Don't stop at the sky.
Stop at Mars.
That's true. Well, for Myka, this is Steve. Good episode, man. I'm looking forward to the next one. Live, let, thrive in the books.
Yeah, remember to subscribe and rate us on YouTube. Email us, call us. Emails liveletthrive@gmail.com. Phone number is 469-300-9100. And remember, like us on Facebook.
All right, man. See you later.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Live, Let, Thrive. Be sure to tune in next week for all the latest in the world of Airbnb and all that entails. Bye-bye.